Well, hello again and welcome back to the training series on integrating .NET with SampleManager 11.0. In this particular track of the training, we're going to go through creating a simple .NET Windows application and consuming the WCF service hosted by a particular instance of SampleManager running locally on this particular machine. So as we discussed in the video prior to this one, we talked about WCF and looked at some tools that could be used to look at the WCF service. One of those tools was provided by Microsoft directly. As you will see, WCF Test Client. When you use this particular tool, you can see all the contracts or subroutines that are exposed in the web service. The one that we're going to be targeting is this subroutine called process. In fact, if you double click on it in this GUI, you'll find that it requires only one value, that is a string. In fact, this string is nothing more than an XML document that will pass. And so just to give you an idea what that XML document looks like, Thermo has provided some samples. For every instance of SampleManager running on a system, in this particular case my instance is called Booz SM or Booz SampleManager instance, there's an exe folder inside of every instance. Inside of every exe folder, you'll find that Thermo has provided some LIMS ML examples. If I open one of those up, you'll see I'm going to open the ping one up, ping XML. All it does is send a request to the WCF service for SampleManager, and it sends this command, sends ping, and it sends some text. You can change this to whatever, but this is this particular command. If I were trying to process a sample or some batch or some job or some analysis, then the command structure here would look totally different, but it would have a similar structure. So as you can see here, this is a standard XML document. Nothing real fancy about it other than it has the beginning tag of LIMS ML. The one thing that is missing in here is the authentication header. So SampleManager's WCF service will not process anything unless it has an authentication header that has to be validated before it will process. So with that said, let me show you a few things about the program I wrote. I'm going to run through the code I wrote or the program I wrote that calls the WCF service, and then in the next video I'm going to go through and dissect the code so you can better understand how to set this up and how you can build one of your own. But in this particular example, I've got a username and password field. It's got a request. This is where the request XML is going to go, and then I've got a response XML. When the WCF service processes the request, I'm going to capture the response and I'm going to put it into the response text box. So as you're going to see here, the first thing that happens is I open up a dialog box to pick one of the LIMS ML files that has been provided by Thermo. These are already pre-canned examples, so I'm just going to take and use one of those. Then I'm going to put it in the text box here without putting any authentication header on it. So as you can see, the thing that's missing is there's still no username and password in this XML document. So I need to add the authentication header. So I'm going to use a utility provided by Thermo. So they have a DLL that I use some of the libraries within that DLL to encrypt the username and password. So as you can see here on the next step, you can see username and password is encrypted, and then I'm going to click OK, and it's going to send it to the WCF service, and you can see how quick it came back and gave me the response. But one thing I want to point out is the username and password is protected. It is encrypted, the best we can do with using the Thermo's encryption algorithms. The response is just like you saw in the utilities that were provided, either it be the Microsoft utility or some of the utilities provided by Thermo to test the WCF service. We used the same ping example in the first video, but now I have an application that I wrote myself that now I have control over formatting any LIMS ML file and processing it directly. So stay tuned for the next video where we'll dissect the code.